at this time, we have center Carson Lee. Start, questions for Carson, right?
Carson, so obviously you've played some this year, but your first start, your most extensive,
Yes,
what
sir.
was it like? Give me an evaluation of you and the line as a whole.
To give a evaluation about the entire line, I need to go back and watch the film. But it felt great to be out there. I've started quite a few games in my career, so it felt pretty natural. But I'd say for me, I just got to keep getting better. There were some things in both the run and the pass that I know I can improve on, and if I do that and get better every single day along with everybody else, I think we're going to be where we want to be by the end of the year.
Did it feel different for you from some of your other starts, or when you get out there, is football?
When you get out there, football is football, but it's definitely a little bit different. At Eastern Michigan, we didn't quite have 60,000 people in the stands every day. But we did play. We played Washington last year, and they had a big crowd and played against them and stuff. So I've played in some big games, but yeah, this was a really cool environment, and just blessed to be able to be here and be a Mountaineer.
When did you know that your game was on?
I didn't know officially really until today, but I think, just after watching what happened with Landon last week, I think we had an idea, but you always hope for the best, especially for a guy like that who's one of our leaders. But I just took the same approach as I do every single week. Just got to prepare like you're going to start, like you're going to get in there, because, I think I've played in every game except for the Ohio one, so you never know when your number's going to be called, but you got to be able to be ready and play your best when those opportunities are given to you.
Offensively, how do you guys get off to a better start?
Again, I think it's just putting our head down and going 1-0 every single day, whether that's, getting some extra film in, getting some extra. I can't speak for everybody else. I know for myself, I need to continue to do the things that have gotten me to this point and, just do them even more diligently, whether that's in the weight room, in the film room, or whatever it may be. But, I know we've got guys in this room, you guys can see in the fourth quarter, we never quit. And so, I think if we just continue to keep improving, like I said, we're going to get better throughout the year. And, it's just what I'm hoping for.
It looks like you've been first off the bench of a center and guard. Are you like the number one guy anywhere? Can you swing, play any line position?
I can't speak to what Coach Bicknell thinks of that, but yeah, I've been fortunate enough. I've started games at all three interior positions. Started over 50 games in high school at some at tackle, guard, and center. Same thing here in college. Started close to 20 games between all three of them. So it's like I said, I've just got to prepare every single week to be able to play all three and play them the best that I possibly can. And when my number's called, just have to take advantage of my opportunities.
How different is this scheme from what you've done before? Is it just the tempo is different, or is the scheme different? What is different for you?
I'd say the scheme is a little bit different. The way that we're taught to, just block our gap. It's not as much man scheme as it is zone. But again, being here the entire summer and the tempo's I've played in some tempo before, but it's definitely faster than what I've been used to. But with the way that Mike Joe works us out in the weight room and conditions us during the summer, and the way that we work and stuff, it's one of those things. You get used to it fairly quickly if you just work your butt off and do the right things every single day.
What was the toughest challenge against, obviously a big and physical front? What was the challenges, I guess?
They were really good. They showed a lot of different fronts, a lot of different movements between their backers and things like that. Yeah, and they're just big physical dudes. I've been fortunate enough. I played against Utah when I was at Colorado a couple years ago, and I have great respect for their staff. They offered me a scholarship when I was in high school, and I got to know them a little bit. So again, like I said, I've got great respect for them. They're always big, physical, and they execute very, very well. And just a ton of respect for them as a program.
Before the portal, one of the things about offensive line was playing together 2 or 3 years, learning. Everyone said it was just second nature. Mm-hmm. Is that the biggest challenge today in this environment, getting to know all the guys coming from different places?
I think it can be if you take it that way. But now that the transfer portal is such a normal thing and everybody's doing it, you kind of get used to that. Okay, we're gonna have turnover whether you like it or not. You don't really have a choice. But I'll say I'm blessed to be here. The guys, it's a phenomenal group in the O-line room. It's a phenomenal team, and I've got a lot better relationships here than I've had with people in the past at other schools, and I've only been here for about 3 months. So, like I said, it's a great program, and we just got to continue to get better every single day.
Carson, as we enter the second half of the season, or getting close to the second half of the season, what's one thing or a few things you want the offensive line group to work collectively on entering the second half of the season?
Like I said, we go to dinner every single Thursday night before the game. We do as much as we can to be as close as possible. I think it's and this starts with me and, you know, myself and Landon and a few of the older guys can head this on, but, you know, we need to just watch more film together. I think we watch a lot of film on our own, but I think if we can do it as a collective group and kind of, you know, go through, okay, if they give us this look, this is what we're going to do. I think it's just things like that, and, you know, you learn that about each other too throughout the year. It's like, okay, some groups you're just fine doing it all on your own, other groups you need to do it together, whatever that may be, and, you know, maybe that's a discussion we need to sit down and talk about and figure out what we need to do going forward.
Carson, as a veteran, what have you learned, and what can you relay to the younger guys to make sure that these losses don't pile up?
Yeah, it was funny, actually. One of the younger guys asked me earlier this week, and they were like, you know, how fast does it go? And I think, you know, the biggest thing you can do is you can't dwell on it because this game goes so fast. You know, you look back, it seems like, shoot, 2 weeks ago I was a freshman in college, and I'm in my 6th year, halfway through the season, and, you know, this thing's almost done with. And so, you know, I think if you just continue to have the right attitude and know, it's like I said, you know, we fight till the very end every single game. And so if you can just continue to have that attitude and know that you have to go 1-0 every single day and get better, things are going to fall into place, whether that's this year, next year, whenever that may be. But I know I've got a lot of trust in these guys and in this program and Coach Rod to get things going the right way.
To that end, for the fans, what was the tone in the locker room at halftime, and then what was kind of the vibe of the locker room after the game?
You know, none of it's just not good enough. We know that going into the locker room at halftime, you know, down 28-0. But the message was also, I mean, shoot, we saw last night Arizona State was down 17, came back and won. So, you know, there's always those opportunities if you just don't give up, like I've been saying. But, you know, I think afterwards, it's just a lot of disbelief because you're just like, well, where did it go wrong? But, like, again, we just got to get into the film room and we just got to keep getting better because what we put out today is not good enough for the fans, it's not good enough for the program, it's not up to our standards. So we just got to continue to get better.
Carson, you mentioned the relationship with the offensive line, but in regards to the quarterbacks, whenever there are so many quarterbacks involved in this offense, how much of an emphasis for you is that relationship towards the quarterbacks in that room?
You know, it's huge. Luckily, you know, you guys know I grew up and I've known Nico for quite a while, so I've known him. But, you know, the other guys, Coach Rhett and Coach Pat White, they do a really good job of, you know, during pre-practice, they rotate all the quarterbacks with the center, so we kind of get to know each other and know the cadence and things like that. And the thing that I try to harp on with the quarterbacks, especially younger guys like when Khalil came in today, is just, hey, be loud and communicate because we've got you up here as long as we know what we're supposed to do, we'll get it all figured out. And so I think that's just the biggest thing is just to continue to communicate and be as loud as you possibly can and just have confidence because if you come into the huddle and you've got confidence in the play that you're calling, then we're going to have confidence in you as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.